To make switching to the new Boost Mobile risk-free, we're offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Because you have nothing to lose. Boost Mobile is offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
No, I asked why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Oh.
Wouldn't.
Because you love wasting money as a way to punish yourself because your mother never showed you enough love as a child?
Whoa. Easy there.
Yeah.
Applies to online activations. Requires port in and auto pay. Customers activating in stores may be charged non-refundable activation fees.
Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop Game Day Faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
Hello, you are listening to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we talk about those films we think deserve a little bit more love. Whether they're underrated or underseen, we're going to talk about them. So, let's see what film it's going to be this week. Hello, yes, thanks for listening. This is Just Films and That. I'm the host, Josh Hallam.
And I'm Jamie Alton.
And this week we're discussing Celeste and Jesse Forever from 2012. So spoiler warnings if you haven't seen it. Whilst you're listening, whilst we've got your attention, if you could head on over to whatever app or website or whatever you're listening to this on, give us a little rating or 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. It helps other people find us and hear our thoughts on the various films that we cover. If you fancy getting a little bit of extended stuff from us, ad-free extended episodes with early access are available over on our Patreon from £1 a month. So just click the link in the show notes below. And you'd be supporting the podcast and we'd be appreciating it, wouldn't we, Jamie? We'd like that.
Oh, I'd love it. Please do. It's all I've got in my life.
So, Celeste and Jesse Forever, Jamie. You seen it?
No.
Before? Obviously, you've seen it now.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Sorry, mate.
Anyway, join us next week.
No, it was one of them where, like, you see the poster around, and I've heard of it, but this is part of the. Is it called mumblecore or like the mumble dramas of like?
Yeah, the sort of very, very slice of life. Like we did another one called, I think it's called Enough Said with Fergus Craig, James Gandolfini's last film.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
They get
very gentle.
They're comedies, but they're not situational comedies. It tends to kind of be that someone might say something humorous within the film.
Script based,
all
dialogue based.
Yeah. So I hadn't seen it, but actually I really enjoyed this.
Good.
Spoiler for that.
So, well, I'll tell you why I picked it then. So just to remind people at home, we go into what we like about a film, then we go into what we dislike about the film. Before we do that, reason I picked it, so we hadn't done one that was just purely underseen for a while. I think this is fairly rated. It might be a little bit underrated, but I think mainly in terms of it being underseen is why I've picked it. So obviously, as we've said in the last few weeks, we've been playing around with the structure, so let's look at how it did. So I think it's underseen. If you look at the box office, it did 3.6 million, which if you look at now, at this point, this is pre-Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so I don't think Andy Samberg is a huge household name, but he's done SNL.
Yeah, and I think his sketches with Lonely Island would have been out there.
And a lot of Lonely Island stuff have been around as well. And Rashida Jones, obviously, again, had done Parks and Rec and had done The Office. I don't even really know with Rashida Jones. I think she probably is in the States, but I think a lot of people now would just know her as Karen from The Office or Anne from Parks and Rec or whatever, or Quincy Jones's daughter, depending on what you're into. So I picked it because it's underseen. We'll come back to the ratings because I don't want to distract from why I picked it. So it's underseen. That's what I reckon. So let's get into it then. So you thought it was all right?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Do you know, I panicked at the start because when as a couple they're in the restaurant and they start doing the voice. I think it's like an Austrian voice or a German voice.
Yeah.
And I just went, oh no, I'm not going to be able to stand these at all. But actually, that was done really well because that's one of the things I really found surprising is when straight off the bat you think you're going to experience why they're getting a divorce, but within the first 10 minutes, it's their friends go, "You're being weird. We know you're getting a divorce. Why are you like this?" And I was like, "Oh wow, that's actually really good." Twist.
It's a proper fake out, isn't it? So they go through the first 45-10 minutes and they show you their whole relationship and they do hint that something's like not entirely okay. But then they just go at one point, no, they're not, this isn't a rom-com, they're not together anymore.
Yeah. And
so it's almost an anti-rom-com, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they wanted to just do a rom-com, a show in the end of a relationship and not the start.
Yeah.
And they tried doing that in the breakup, which I think didn't work. The Jennifer Aniston movie.
Vince Vaughn one.
I think that's a bit too. It's a bit too like traditional studio movie, that one, where you can't really cover that many things, and the characters are a bit boring, and you get like contrived arguments. And this one, all of the arguments and fights that they have always feel natural, and I feel like, as you know, I've been in loads of relationships, absolute lad.
Yeah, don't brag.
But kind of in everything that someone does that you might consider like a mistake or something that you'd regret, it feels natural. It all feels like the kind of things that people do in relationships.
Yeah, no, so for me, I again, like you say, is that sort of mumblecore. I always call it like a slice of life film, like low stakes. Here's just a period from these characters' lives where they maybe learn something about themselves or each other or whatever. So I think that this, for me, it feels like real characters sort of solving real problems or dealing with issues fairly realistically. So I quite like that idea of, like you say, the reverse rom-com, or it is a rom-com, but it's about the end, not the beginning, or whatever. So I do enjoy that. I like that whole. I mean, for me, I think the real star is probably the script. So it's written by Rashida Jones and her writing partner Will McCormick, who plays the weed dealer. I can't remember what he's called. It's called something like Sketch or
something
Splip
weird.
or something like something. It's something completely made up. And they also. I mean, this is. I think I watched this because they got the deal to do Toy Story 4.
Yeah,
I think I went, I'll see what else they've done.
That's insane that the kind of John Lasseter watched this and went, I want these
Toy
guys
Story
in to do the split up of Buddy and Wuz.
So I quite like that. I like how they track. I think they use with the script. They use traditional comedy really well. There's some good lines. I think all the cast get moments to be funny but dramatic at the same time. But what I quite like about this is they use absence quite well. So you think, or I don't know what you thought about this, but you think it's probably going to be about Celeste and Jesse all the way through. But really, it's sort of more about Celeste.
Yeah, I really liked that. It was kind of halfway through that I went, oh, this is about Celeste. This is her movie.
And he's not really. He's in it, but what you see is her tracking how she feels based on like his absence, and every time he comes back, something's changed.
Yeah, and
usually for the better.
You get to see a few scenes with him, but he is mainly represented next to her. Like, I would have thought that we would see that conversation he has where he finds out that he's going to be a dad, because that is quite a dramatic moment that you could milk in a movie. But they've said no, actually, because we'll hit the audience in the same way that Celeste gets hit with this information, so that it's like oh wow, Jesus, where's that come from? Yeah, she's your point of view character, and she's your sort of, they're both the protagonist, but like you say, it's about her experiences really more than his, because like you say, you're viewing the journey through her eyes, sort of thing. Like you say, you're only finding out that information. There isn't even little hints of like, oh, him and his new partner with a pregnancy test or anything like that. It's just you're finding out as she finds out. So I quite like that. I quite like how you see them both struggle at different points and struggle with different things and struggle socially and in different ways. They both have different aspects of what they struggle with, in terms of not just generally, but also with what they go through as well in the film. I quite like there's bits where they're both pining for each other, and this idea that they're with each other's first big love, first big long-term relationship, and they keep going back to each other as friends. And there's also not that thing of, I don't think, again, I'd be interested to know what you thought about this, but I don't spend the whole thing going, they're going to get back together. Yeah, I found myself going, I don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
But not only do I not think they're going to get back together, I don't want them to get back together. Because I like them both, but I was like, this is a more interesting film if you show a relationship that is able to end amicably. And I think that it helps if you give them new partners that are like the most attractive people on the planet.
Yeah, and also they're it's almost like this is like the most grown-up rom-com.
Yeah,
it's like the most apart from sexy stuff, it's literally like the most like mature, this is what it's like, guys, sort of thing.
Yeah, and when you think about it, the amount of movies that tell us like this is how people get together, where they don't. Like I've never spilled coffee on a celebrity in the middle of Notting Hill, and then they've decided to start a relationship with me. If anything, they've just got quite angry. But that's through our.
You do still wait outside the Dorchester, though, don't you? It's just.
Yeah. Well, I've got the little uniform now, so just make a little bit of money. If anything.
But no, you're right. There's no meet cute. There's a unmeet cute, if anything.
But if you consider like films to be almost instructional on, if I go into a scenario that I've never been through, at least I've got a reference point. There's not a lot that tell us how to do breakups unless it's a film, like like one of the films that we watched before where people break up at the start just to get back together by the end. Yeah. This is like a proper. This is what can happen when you break up with someone, and if you want to stay friends with them, there are kind of emotional entanglements there.
Yeah, what did you think? So, what did you think of those two? What do you think of Andy Samberg and Rashida Jones then? Because it's all on, particularly Rashida Jones, but it's all on both of them. How did you find their performances?
I was worried at the start that it was going to be like, he's a man baby and an idiot, and she's a high powered. I can't have it all because I need to focus on work. Yeah, and actually, I feel like they've done these. If you lay down all the characters from this, you'd think this was a normal rom-com, because you've got the best friend, you've got the gay friend at work, you've got you've got the weed dealer, and it's all these characters that we know from rom-coms, but they're not as broad. And when you look at him as like the man baby, it's just that he's been like not doing his work and painting a bit and watching the Olympics, like the old 90s Olympics.
Which is the famous clip of the weightlifter, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think like if this was a studio movie, this would have been him like maybe staying at home smoking weed, or he's playing video games. That's the man playing video games tends to be that like cliche of the adolescent, whereas they don't do that. And actually when he transforms too much for her, where he takes to the vegan restaurant. She's pretty livid.
I mean, the comparison that I'm drawn to, and I love the film I'm going to compare this to, is something like Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But that is very much like he's useless and he just wears sweats and he just eats. He's such a man. What's she doing with him? Whereas this, it's a bit like, no, you can. And I really love Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but this is almost like someone put that through a realism filter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Also, this has comments on that kind of man baby grown woman relationship where, he says, you felt comfortable with me not being as good as you. And she's also angry that he wasn't willing to change for her, but now he's with this new lady. He's absolutely changed.
Yeah. I also like that they both get their own little journeys in it where they both go really stupid at some points. Like some of it's not, we'll come to it in the dislikes, but some of it's less believable than others. But there are those moments where it is like she becomes like a bit of a brat, or like a bit like, she's really having a hard time with it, that sort of thing. And I quite like that, in the idea of they bring out the best in each other, they bring out the worst. I do think that it's really hard. And I think we've talked about this in other similar films we've done before. It's really hard to nail realistic relationships between couples, especially when obviously they're actors. Because it's A, I think they get the chemistry really right. But B, I do think they have that believable thing of they do these stupid little dweeby jokes that if you explain it to people, it's just not funny. But between you as a couple, the whole thing of like they keep wanking stuff off. Like this little, they're doing that sort of thing, and you can see that sort of thing is where they're together. Where it's subtly enough that it doesn't rub it in your face. I think
when they're wanking it off,
it doesn't rub the wanking off of something.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of films you can kind of mark on the likability of. Do I feel like these people existed before the film started and will exist afterwards? And they definitely have built the world up well enough. They've built the best friends up. It all feels very lived in, and you can understand kind of where they're going, because you get like, this is the end of the road of a relationship. So yeah, and also when they make stupid decisions, I think they built up the characters as so likable that like there were two moments in this where I was like cringing because I just wanted the best for Celeste, and there's the obvious like trailer one that they did of her going through the bins, which that feels kind of almost too slapstick, but
yeah, you can hear the bit where the music stops.
Yeah, and the slide whistle comes in.
Yeah, and someone goes, "This fall,"
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And also the wedding speech where you just don't want her to be embarrassed, and you don't want her to feel awful. And instead of me kind of being angrier, because sometimes when filmmakers do that, I'm like, I can see you showing your hand here. I can see what you're trying to do, why you're trying to force me through this emotional thing. Whereas I was genuinely like, oh God, get out the bins because this looks really bad on you. Or, stop having this disastrous wedding speech where you're pining for your ex in front of his new missus who's pregnant.
What else for you then? Is there anything else?
So things that I liked, I thought the little kind of the Emma Roberts character added like a good ding of energy.
Yeah, they're sort of like she's sort of like a up and coming, no, not up and coming. She's like a Miley Cyrus type pop star, isn't she?
You can kind of imagine Ariana Grande behaving like this, maybe.
If Ariana is listening,
she licked that donut. I know you licked the donut, Ariana. I've seen the clip. But I think that because it is a mumblecore movie, the energy dips, and it's quite good to have a character like that just pulls everything up. And also, I think the cinematography on this, actually, there's some directional flair. Like I remember at the wedding, they show Celeste outside of the wedding tent, and it's filmed beautifully. Like you understand everything in just that one shot. She's outside drinking alone. All of her friends are inside the tent, including Jesse and his new girlfriend. And there's some stuff in there, like the intro is all done through Polaroids instead of, voiceover. You could imagine, a Hollywood film having either of them voiceover and being like, "This is us, and we've been together forever, and we're so happy, but we're getting divorced."
Record scratch. How did we get here?
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. Like I think a good thing that it does as well is it knows what it is. So I think one of the things it does throughout the film is it leads you down a path to be like, this is what you think it's going to be, and then goes, it's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's constantly Chris Tarrant, but we don't want to give you that, isn't it? So we'll move on to the dislikes then. I mean, it's a difficult one, this. I mean, I don't have loads. There's a few things I've got. What have you got? Do you want me to go?
No, you can go. What didn't you like about this, Josh?
So I would say there's just the odd bit where it's a little bit dull. It's fairly well paced and it's not overly long. But there is the odd bit because it's so low stakes. There is elements where just nothing's happening. There's just a lot of dialogue scenes and stuff like that. So I suppose I can see how this wouldn't be for everyone because some people do want that more polished, more formulaic rom-com that we've sort of talked that this is. It's not really parodying, but it's certainly making heavy reference to. Other than that, I think what I really liked about this film is the strength of it is in its realism, which is, like I've said, it leads you down that path and then goes, no, this is a film more rooted in real life, so this happens. So there is the odd bit where they actually sort of scrap that and go, you're still gonna get the odd bit though. And so, for example, when Celeste has really gone off the rails and she's like eating cake and smoking, and I thought it was a bit like, do that, but just not as much. Don't make it as cartoony. Do you know what I mean?
Very Bridesmaids.
Very Bridesmaids, and again, almost like they've shown a cut and they've gone. We just need a bit more for the trailer, or we just need a bit more to be like, oh, she's lost it. She's like you say, that sort of idea of the Bridesmaids idea and stuff like that. So the strength for me is in the realism. So the odd bit where it strays into more formulaic sitcom just felt a bit jarring for me. It's not a huge, it's not a huge offender or anything like that, but there's just the odd bit where I was like, well, it just jars against the rest of the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a couple of scenes that kind of drag on because it's not where you want to know exactly what, where is this going to work out. Like for me, the scene where she's smoking the bong with, whatever his name is, Ziegs or whatever.
Yeah,
you feel like, did they just put that in because as the writers, they wanted to have a scene together? Because it doesn't actually cover that much. As a scene, and I was kind of. It's weird to be watching a film where Rashida Jones is smoking weed and going, "All right, come on, let's get to the next bit."
Yeah.
So that, but I did like it. I thought this. I put this in dislikes, but it's not really fair on the movie. I think casting Rashida Jones and Andy Samberg probably wasn't a good service for this, because we know the good dramatic actors now, but the reason why this probably underperformed is because people thought it was like a traditional laugh out loud rom-com.
Yeah,
and
so,
then
I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's just been a kind of a melodrama with some jokes where word of mouth, probably you're getting people coming back over opening weekend going, oh, that was boring. He didn't even show his arse,
Yeah. There's not even a moment where he falls over.
Yeah, it's the most slapstick is hair falling out the bin, but it's not a comedy moment. It's one where you're like, oh god, the poor woman.
Yeah, it definitely knows what it is, doesn't it? And like you say, but the problem with making something like this is people go in expecting something, and when they don't get it, Rashida Jones has done, like the last film we did before Alice went on maternity was I Love You Man, and that is a more traditional rom-com, and she's the female lead in that. Yeah,
and I think that that's not the film's fault, but it's just the expectation on the film. They probably maybe wanted to throw in a few more jokes, but as I say, like, I'm glad you recommended this. My only other point was, is Jesse going to have a miserable life? Because he kind of keeps showing up going, I don't think this is what I want. Oh, I'm not happy.
and now I'm a vegan, I'm going to be a dad.
And like, I was watching like, oh, I like them both, but he's like 10 minutes after this, he's going to be in the car going, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Oh no.
But then I guess, is it playing to that realism, like we said, because it's sort of going, deal with the consequences of your actions? Because does it ever say who instigated the breakup, or is it just that they broke up?
I think it's her. She knew she didn't want to have a baby with him.
That's right, yeah.
They hinted that quite a bit. And his personality type is not one that would ever, I think, break up with her, because he doesn't like being challenged until he is actually challenged.
He's too laid back or too non-confrontational or whatever. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Because the other thing as well for me is, going back to what we were saying about it leaning into stereotype or expectation of audience, it does another thing that rom-coms do a lot, which is the main character makes something entirely about themselves that they shouldn't. So like, it's usually at a wedding. So like, she has that big speech, and I'm like, but at a wedding, I feel like people would just keep it together. Yeah, like, it's not about you. If you couldn't get up and do a speech, you'd probably go, I'm really sorry, if I do a speech and my ex is there, I'm going to get upset. I think you'd probably rather no speech than me being upset.
Yeah, I know. When they announce it, it kind of looks like she's a bit surprised. It's like, you're the maid of honor, of course you're going to do a speech.
Yeah. Did you not know you were doing it? What I got from that impression is like her head's been so up her own arse, she's completely forgotten to write one.
Yeah.
So she just says it.
There's one with Lily, what's her name? Lily Collins. I can't remember the name of it, so that helps the podcast. Yeah. But
Phil Collins, her dad, Phil Collins, the singer,
where she's doing a wedding speech, and it's like clear that she's in love with the groom, and it's one of them where like if you were the bride, you would just go over and bottle her.
Yeah,
like, How dare you?
No, we're not condoning that, guys. Don't beat people up at weddings. But
I'd say if I was the bride, I'd do it.
You'd be the bride one day, mate.
You always tell me I'm never going to get married. Remember, it's the first podcast we did.
First thing I said, wasn't it? Welcome, Jamie Allen. He's never going to get married. Look at the state. No,
he can come do my podcast because he'll have loads of time. Our other host is in love and had a child, but Jamie will never ever settle down. So cheers for giving me a film about a breakup, mate. It's something I can long for one day.
I do. I just want to put you through your paces. But no, characters do that. There are moments like where the actor and you go, you just wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if it was refreshing or not, but she gets really hammered at her. Is it an engagement? It's not an engagement.
The one
party,
where she's smoking and eating cake as well.
Yeah. Is that a birthday party or?
I don't even know because it's her best mate Ari Grainer, isn't it? Who's like, you've got to sober up, sit here on time out. That bit. I think it's either a pre-wedding do or engagement party.
And it's mad because you don't see like they don't go big on it, you know. And actually, I think it's quite funny just the shot of her floating by in the pool.
Like look at Nick Nolte.
Yeah, and that did make me laugh that line. But it would probably make Jesse more uncomfortable, and I think the new girlfriend more uncomfortable. That situation, seeing like the kind of destruction that she's going down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, or maybe Jesse should have been You should have seen this, have a scene where he's made to feel the weight of that a bit more.
Yeah.
Because instead it's just, and she's just fine, meets another guy. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. And I do wonder if actually a better ending for her would have been finding more solace in herself.
Yeah, I mean, the one of my dislikes was she breaks up with, I think is his name Paul, the handsome yoga man.
The yoga guy, yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a Paul. I bet he's got a load of gilets. But she breaks up with him to be like, I need some time alone. And then you have maybe 2 more scenes, and then she calls him up and she's like, ready.
Yeah,
like,
got the time.
What was the point of that? You should just had her maybe not see him for them bits, you know. It's very slight. Yeah,
just show her not taking his calls.
Yeah.
Like I do with you when you're always texting me at night.
Yeah, actually, no, that's a lot better if she just kind of ignores him a bit and then the end is like, oh, sorry, I was just sorting myself out.
Yeah. Sorry, mate, I didn't want to text you at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 4 a.m, I was outside yours, so it was raining.
Told you, spare room is not yours.
Then why did you tell me where the key is? In your wallet where I found it last time.
Okay, so we'll move on to talking about the critical reception then. So just to remind people at the start, I picked this because I think that it is underseen, but we'll look at the scores anyway. And again, just to remind you, we have the IMDb, the Rotten Tomatoes audience, Rotten Tomatoes critics, and then we average them out. So box office wise, picked it because it's underseen, 3.6 million worldwide, and I think it's a fair... You hadn't seen it, had you, Jamie?
No.
So what do we think then? Underseen?
Yeah, underseen, yeah. I don't think it deserves to not be in the conversation.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. Okay, so underseen, that's good. Scores-wise then, how do you think it did?
I reckon reviewers probably liked this, but it didn't blow anyone away. So I reckon this lives in a land of 6s.
I think it probably... Well, I can tell you are right. So IMDb gets 6.6 out of 10. The audience on Rotten Tomatoes give it... And I thought this was quite low, 62%. And the critics are a bit kind on Rotten Tomatoes. They give it 71%. So that averages out at mid-6s, 66% or 6.6 out of 10. I mean, I don't think it's not absolutely blow you away. I just think this is a decent, well-made film, and it's certainly got its place. I would say that's underrated. What would you say?
Mate, it's slightly. Slightly. I'd say this is a 7, so I'll say slightly, but, it's like you said, you're bringing this forward today because it's underseen, not necessarily because it took like a critical pandering that it didn't deserve. So yeah, I'd go slightly, but I wouldn't stop, throwing fists for people going like, this is just an okay film.
Okay then, so there we go, underrated and underseen. So it's your turn to pick now, Jamie. So we're getting into October now, well into October, so we've started looking at appropriate films for you know what. What are we watching next week?
November the 5th.
Yeah. We are going to do a film for November the 5th, actually.
Oh,
wonder what it's going to be. Wonder what it's going to be.
So next week we're doing The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox.
Frighteners with Michael J. Fox. Okay. Well, in that case, join us next week when we're going to be talking about The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. We're on all the social medias as well. If you search for Just Films and That, and you'll find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're always putting stuff out there, so do give us a follow and do drop us a line if you can think of any films you think we should cover. All that remains to be said then is thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next week. It's goodbye from me. Cheerio.
Bye.
To make switching to the new Boost Mobile risk-free, we're offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Because you have nothing to lose. Boost Mobile is offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
No, I asked why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Oh.
Wouldn't.
Because you love wasting money as a way to punish yourself because your mother never showed you enough love as a child?
Whoa. Easy there.
Yeah.
Applies to online activations. Requires port in and auto pay. Customers activating in stores may be charged non-refundable activation fees.